2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Should we schedule sex? What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brandon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it.
This is a good topic, Brandon. We're going to get into something. We got a really awesome guest willing to come on and share some of her story today, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But I'm going to share a new review that just came in this week. It says, Ty and Brandon have been a lifesaver to me personally and to our marriage. I was first introduced to Brandon through his other podcast with Kobe and Ashton called The Betrayed, the Addicted, and the Expert. I just learned of my husband's struggle and use of pornography late in 2018. We did not go to therapy, but he started with a support group. He listened to the podcasts and talked about them regularly. It was incredibly helpful. In October, we both got COVID and our spiraled out of control. I found porn on our computer shortly thereafter, and now we were back to square one. We found Therapy Brothers, so now we listen to both podcasts. I watch Brandon's YouTube videos, and my husband listens to Tyler's other podcasts as well. We cannot get enough. We were both in individual therapy, and he is still in group. We're making a lot of progress, still have a long way to go, but I'm starting to have hope that our 40-year relationship can survive this with the hard work that we are doing. Thank you for your faithfulness to humanity and sharing your knowledge and wisdom. I especially appreciate you are believers and pull faith into the conversations. We so appreciate both of you. We actually pray for you and your families. Thanks again, Brandon and Ty. The title of that was Autumn Way. So thank you. That's really nice. Great way to start the day.
That just made my day. Wow. Like I appreciate your prayers and they're felt. And that just kind of validates a lot of why I do what I do. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a great, very kind review. Thank you for your willingness to put it out there and share. Brandon and I both really do. We have conversations frequently about the fact that this is not just something that we want to make a career of. It's a passion for us. And so when our passion lines up with your passion, it makes a big difference for us. So thank you. All right. Should we jump into the question today, Brandon?
Yeah, let's do it. So we have with us Christy. And Christy, I want to just kind of hand it over to you a little bit and have you introduce yourself as much as you want to, but then get into kind of the context of what's going on with your situation and ask any questions that you have. So, Christy, it's all yours.
All right. So my husband and I have been married almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years in June. He's struggled with a pornography problem since his teenage years, pretty common. He's been sober for almost 3 years now and been in active recovery, I would say, for a little over 2 years. We've
Awesome.
both done specialized therapy on our own and a little bit of couple sessions together. I've myself done quite a bit of EMDR for sexual trauma in our marriage. And I've also just last year been doing a lot of my own work on owning and accepting my own sexuality, which has helped just a ton. But my issue is that I still struggle with planning and preparing for sex. We have 3 young children, and my husband works a lot of long hours, so he's not home a lot. So being able to schedule sex and for me to get in the mood quicker after the kids go to bed would really, really help our sex life. But it seems like every time I know that sex is likely to happen or expected to happen, and especially when I'm the one that's even like suggesting it and trying to initiate it, I just shut down. It's been really frustrating for me and my husband. He really struggles with initiating sex and dealing with rejection. He's a lot better than he used to be, but he still has some struggle with that. So yeah, we're kind of stuck. We don't really know how to go about fixing this. I don't know if more EMDR is required, if he needs to do more work on his part. So we're just looking for some advice on how to handle that.
Okay. Great, Christy. Could you just maybe answer a couple of other questions before we get into some suggestions and discussion?
Sure.
I'm just kind of wondering what it's like for you physiologically and mentally as you're sort of trying to gear yourself up for this, knowing that you're wanting to initiate it. What is the process like for you physiologically and mentally? Are you aware of like the tape that's playing in your head?
I know definitely like I'll be the one that like sends like a text to my husband at work saying, hey, can we we don't like using the word sex. We use special time because sex has been kind of a triggering word. So I'll say, hey, would you like to have some special time tonight? And it's like, as soon as I send that text and it's out there and I know that he knows, I just start to feel this anxiety in my chest. It just feels like this big ball of energy that's just making me tense and just worried. And I have a hard time focusing on the things I need to do. So I feel like it's a trauma response that I'm having. So that's kind of what's going in. And I do have to say, too, that we have tried to schedule sex in the past, and it did not go well at all. So I think that's where my mind goes, is it remembers what it was like back then for me. Even though we're in a different place now, that's where my mind still goes.
Christy, when you say that you're the one scheduling the sex because you want to be close, you want to have intimacy, does that mean that you're more of the initiator when it comes to sex in your marriage?
Yes. Oh. We had a boundary in place for quite a while where my husband was not allowed to initiate because I just did not feel safe. We don't have that boundary anymore, and we haven't for several months, but my husband is still struggling with, I think, just owning and accepting his sexuality and being okay with him wanting to have sex. Yeah. And I think he doesn't quite know how to go about it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of hearing that in the background a little bit going on. So when you, and we're not trying to grill you. I'm just trying to gather more information so we can help you. When you say that he's been sober for a while, but he's been in active recovery for a couple of years, what does that mean to you?
I count it from when he started going to therapy, because I feel like that's when he really, like, the light bulb started to come on. Before that, it was just kind of white knuckling. I can't do this anymore. It's bad. And, I don't want to hurt my wife and my family. But once he started therapy and started really uncovering the roots of why he was turning to pornography, that really turned on some light bulbs.
In that work, do you feel like as he did that root work, do you feel like he is now showing up with less shame, more honest, more confident, more masculine even?
Yes, most definitely. I think he still struggles a bit with the confidence. And like I said, I think he still struggles with the rejection part of it. And he
Okay.
hasn't really done a lot of work of owning and accepting his own sexuality. I don't know
Yeah.
if he's been kind of afraid to do that work or what it is, but yeah, I think he still has some work to do there.
Okay.
Okay.
Tyler, do you have more?
Yeah. So just so you can understand where Brandon's questions are going, he's trying to get to an understanding of whether or not your relationship is actually safe to be engaging in sex the
Exactly.
way you want
Oh,
to.
okay.
And it sounds to me from the answers that you're giving that, yeah, you're right. The conditions are actually right most of the time to be leaning
Yeah.
into the space that you're actually in right now.
Yeah.
If he was not showing up, like if he was in recovery but only sober, but not having done some of that other deeper work and trying to show up with more strength and humility, then there'd be a reason why you'd be having that response, and that response would be something that would be worth following and saying, you know what, maybe we put the brakes on that because it's not quite safe. But
Yeah.
the answers to your questions are actually saying that no, good job to him. He's doing his work. He's in the midst of it, and he's doing it authentically. It sounds like, and so that's going to lead our discussion a different way, and that's why Brandon was asking those questions.
Tyler, you're spot on with what you're saying, but I do want to say one thing, and one concern that I am kind of having is this piece of his acceptance of himself sexually, and also this confidence in being able to step into some rejection, being able to put himself out there with who he is. Because, and the reason I pinpoint this, I think it's actually a critical piece to the puzzle here, in terms of him understanding that you're having some betrayal trauma responses, but him also being able to be strong enough to tolerate that and to hold that and to create safety with you anyways. I think it's really important. So I do think there might be a little bit more work to do on his recovery when it comes to shame and sex, and maybe some trauma around sex for him, or whatever the fear is as to why he's scared to be totally vulnerable there.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Right. I think what I'm hearing though is that both of you guys are actually coming to the same point, which is that you have a desire to want to connect with each other. The conditions are right, but both of you still have this. When it gets down to it, as soon as you put out there, hey, look, let's have some special time tonight, you're instantly in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
So you could be rejected yourself, or you could feel that pressure now that all of a sudden you've committed to something that maybe if the conditions change, you feel obligated.
Yeah, that's exactly it right there, what you just said.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that might be something that you work out with your husband to say, you know, I don't know how many times I've heard this, but there's many times when a wife will call her husband and be like, man, I can't wait for you to get home. Let's have some special time, or like whatever. And then he gets all pumped up. He's like, sweet, I'm going to go home from work early if I can. And then by it's home, the kids have run her ragged, and she's kind of lost like her mindset. And now she's feeling like, oh no. And then he's going to get disappointed, and then she's going to feel more pressure. And then that cycle actually builds on itself, and then it continues to shut her down further.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. So maybe there's some open discussion that you and your husband could be having around the fact that even if you send a text at 2 p.m, for him to be sensitive to the fact that things might change between 2 and 8, you know, and if he understands that, then he can come home and he can do his side of it, which it sounds like he's willing to do, and still be close, still hold you, still talk to you, whatever, without having it have to go a certain direction.
Yeah.
Christy, if you, let's say that you didn't schedule sex, how, just frequency wise, about how often would he initiate sex?
That's a good question. Not very much. It's really still me that's doing a lot of it. I would say we are consistently having sex about at least once a week, which is so much better than it used to be. We only used to have sex maybe once or twice a month.
And that was more because of him, not you.
The once or twice a month?
No,
that was probably more me.
So that was when you were feeling used and not safe and all of those things.
Right.
So, but now it's once or twice a week, more initiated by you.
Yes.
If not almost all the time initiated by you, you'd say.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, what Tyler keeps pointing out, I think I just want to reiterate, because Christy, your story of having done your trauma work, him doing his recovery work, like, it's really awesome. So many people that we work with day in and day out don't believe that recovery is real. And so you guys have gotten yourself to an awesome place. And so now you're looking intimacy in the eye, and you're like, man, we want more. We want to go further here. But it's also the most vulnerable stuff. And so,
Yeah.
so it's the most triggering, and it pulls you back into those trauma triggers. So Tyler, do you have any thoughts? I definitely do, but.
Yeah, I do have some thoughts. The first is that the answer to your question, you're already on the right track. I do think that both you and your husband might benefit from some continued like EMDR type work. But I also think that in terms of our discussion today, I think that there could be some really good discussion in an ongoing way if you guys were to get on the same page and say, hey, we're going to practice this. And the truth is that your husband, in order to step into his masculinity, and he needs to get to a spot where it's okay for him to pursue you and get shot down the same way that it would be okay for you to open the door and then close it, and have both of you not take that personal, to have it become this thing that becomes this practice where we can still talk with each other, we can still connect with each other. There's not a lot of more like connecting things in some ways and trust building things than if I pursue my wife sexually, and then she says, hey, look, like my headspace is not in the right place right now or whatever. And instead of like rolling over and pulling the covers away or going and watching TV, I still say, okay, well, how close do you want me? Can I hold you, or can we talk, or do you want
So Tyler, I want to ask you a question. Just kind of play along with me here. Let's say that you initiate sex with your wife every day, like every single day. But you're only having sex about once a week. Is that healthy?
Well, yeah, as long as my wife doesn't feel pressured, right? Like my wife, it's okay for my wife to know that I desire her and that I have a drive that's there all the time. As long as I'm not smothering her, as long as I'm not causing pressure or guilt or whatever. And as long as I'm there and saying, I'm good. Like, we don't have to have sex today.
That's a great answer, because it really, what you're talking about, it's not about the front end. The front end is just authenticity and honesty. If I want to have sex and I want to be intimate, then I'll put myself out there and I'll be honest with you. And hopefully I've created safety and all these things, and I desire connection. And if my wife says I don't want to have sex, and that's not where I'm at, and I have zero desire, that's authenticity too. That's honesty too.
Yes.
And so we're both showing up honest, but on the back end is the important part, where it's like, okay, she did reject me when I initiated sex. I'm good. Like, I'm okay. In fact, I appreciate that she's honest with me and boundaried with me, and not giving me sex, feeling forced into it, feeling unsafe, and all of those things. Right. And so I think, and Christy, why I'm bringing this up is to just make that point, is that this sex isn't so scary, or initiation of sex, when there is a level of interdependency and a level of health and confidence within yourself, so that you can navigate rejection. You can navigate feelings of even abandonment at times, or neglect. You can navigate those things and still be okay. So
yeah, Brandon, let's just scenario just a little bit further, because I think it's important to add this to what we're talking about. It's not like everybody gets to a point where it's like, yep, I'm good, I don't care if we don't have sex. It's like, I'm going to pursue my wife, and she's okay to say no because she's not there, and that's totally okay. It's okay for me to be disappointed, but the way that I handle disappointment is either trust, or it's going to cause more pressure and stress on the relationship. And that's where the work that we do from the inside out, where it's like, okay, there will be probably some physical discomfort if I'm letting my sexual response start to build, and I go and I pursue my wife, and then it's like, oh, that's not going to happen. And there's going to be some physical discomfort, be some emotional disappointment. That's okay too. And I can still put my arms around her, look her in the eye and say that I love her.
Yes.
And that's where the trust gets built.
Right. So Christy, I want to apply this to you and give you just some of my own thoughts in that I don't, and this is just what I think. I don't think scheduling sex is a good idea for you guys right now. But I do think practicing what Tyler and I are talking about is a good idea, where your husband has a certain goal, or he is honest when he wants to come on to you, and he practices having passionate sex with you, with his wife, or he practices getting rejected and sitting in that rejection and allowing himself to be okay with that. What we don't want is, okay, we take away scheduled sex, so now we go back to like nothingness, just sitting in fear and not dealing with the vulnerability. And so like there needs to be some work and some intention to say, I'm going to step into this. I'm going to practice this. What do you think about that, Christy?
I like that. I think you're right. I think scheduling sex is a good goal for us to have eventually, but I think you're right. I think it's not feeling like right now is the right time. Right. Yeah, we both have work that we need to do.
Christy, you say you've done a lot of your own work on your own sexuality. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Last year, I'd been doing my own therapy for about a year straight. And then last year, just because financially we needed to take a break from doing that, because as you know, therapy is expensive. Mm-hmm. So I made it a goal last year to work on my own sexuality because I felt like I was ready to do that. And so I was introduced to Jennifer Finlayson-Fife, which I know you guys are very familiar with her. Yeah. Listen to a lot of her podcasts. I'm part of her Facebook group, one of them, the Ask an LDS Therapist a Sex Question. Very involved on there. I have started her Art of Desire course, but haven't finished it yet. And then just listening to other various podcasts and doing a lot of journaling and just kind of reshaping a lot of my ideas that I used to have about sex. That's helped a ton.
Awesome. That's really important as you're trying to figure this out. So as healthy as you can possibly be, and even as sex positive as you can be in terms of your own sexuality and accepting yourself, that's an important piece here.
Yeah, and learning how to teach that to our kids too. That's also been a huge focus because I don't want our children to deal with the things that we've had to deal with.
Yeah. So you're doing all of this work. And, Tyler, I don't know if you want to add to this, but I know this about femininity and sexuality is for you to fully open up and fully be present and fully enjoy the experience of intimacy. There's one ingredient that is the most important. And do you know what that is?
I would say probably just being present. I feel like our minds go so many different directions and we get distracted and out of the mood so easy. But if we can just stay present in what we're feeling at that moment.
Right.
Like
so if you have all these trauma triggers going on and all this, anxiety and fear and stuff going on, you're anything but present, right?
Right.
But you're absolutely right. It's being present in the moment, but you won't be present unless you feel safe, unless you feel like tons of safety. And that's when you can step into that moment. And so sex is a triggering topic for you and your husband. There's a lot of triggers that take you out of that present moment and destroy the safety. So the work that I would look at doing is practicing that safety, with each other. So so that's why scheduling sex is a little bit concerning for me, where it's like the last thing that you want to feel is forced.
Right.
And so when you send him that text or when you have that time, and the last thing he needs is to feel forced too, right?
Yeah.
You want it to be organic and safe in that moment so that you can both just be. And so I think the scheduling sex could actually be setting you up a little bit.
Okay.
So.
As you're saying that, yeah, that's making me think, like, when we have sex now, how does it happen? And it's exactly what you're saying. It's because we've connected, and just in that moment, we both feel like that's what we want to do. And so it just naturally happens.
Right.
So I think you're right. I think the trying to schedule it is putting just a lot of pressure on both of us.
But you kind of, but Christy, I hear this fear where it's like, well, but if we just go for that kind of sex, the kind you just described, you might go a long time without having much sex because he might not initiate, right?
Yeah, right.
So it puts you between a rock and a hard place a little bit.
Yes, you're right. It does.
Right. But I think, Christy, as you're talking, though, if we were to, and I know we're asking you some pretty personal questions here, but if you were to rate the kind of sex that you're having when those are the conditions, how does that compare to the pressured, scheduled kind?
Oh, it's so much better. I never want to go back to the way it was. I told my husband I refused to go back to the way it was because it was just hollow and empty, and I felt used and just miserable. I hated sex. Now I love it because it actually fills me and it's connecting, and I look forward to it now. So there's a huge difference between the two.
Awesome. Yeah, I would bet that if we asked your husband the same question, he would say, of course, he likes to have sex, but I bet he would say that he would never want to have sex with you if you felt used or obligated, because at the end of that, he's going to end up feeling empty and hollow and not feel good about himself either. And sex will become this physical act between two people who are in their individual selves because they're so worried, instead of a communal thing that gets to be shared with one another. And most people, when they figure this out, realize that a good sex life is not about frequency per se. It's about those conditions just described. And so Brandon's onto something here. Most people, especially, more often than not, the feminine side of this, the more pressure they feel, the more goes up. And so Brandon said it, the secret to the best sex in the world is safety and trust. And when there's safety and trust, then there's this opportunity. And so what you find yourself in is, in a sense, what you're hearing from Brandon and I is that this is kind of a paradox, because you should be intentionally leaning into working on a good sex life at the same time that you should take the pressure off yourself to have a good sex life. And so it's like this weird sort of mix where, yeah, on the inside, your intention and heart are pure. Stick with that intention and be leaning forward, but don't put the expectation or pressure for some level, some amount of sex to be had.
Yeah.
And in doing that, it's going to create an environment where you and your husband can then navigate that together, and you'll get to practice. And sometimes it will go well, and sometimes it won't. And when it doesn't, you both have permission to talk about it. And that's going to allow you to then kind of continue to develop the kind of sex life that you both want.
So, yeah, I want to go along with Tyler's comment here. And the good sex happens when you're not having sex. So let me explain. Christy, let's say you schedule some special time, right? And then it, like, all the pressure comes, the anxiety comes, you're not feeling it. He comes home with an expectation. And it's just kind of a mess, right? It's just not going to happen. What does he do with that when you're spinning in your triggers? How does he handle that?
So here's the thing. When this happens the first time, he can handle the no really well. He's very supportive, willing to talk, listen. He's okay to just cuddle, or if we just want to go to bed, he's fine with that. The issue comes when this keeps happening night after night, because since we didn't do it that one night, the expectation is that we're going to try again the next night. And then if it doesn't happen then, and that cycle just keeps happening, that's when he really struggles. And he has expressed to me that he feels he doesn't have control or any say in our sex life, that we only have sex when I want to have sex. So he wants to have more of a say. But like I said, he struggles with initiating and doesn't really try.
Okay. So there's trauma here, and there's healing that needs to happen. And so if he's good at holding space for you initially, then I think one of the pieces here is that he needs to be good at holding space for you consistently. Yeah. And over time, you'll look back and say, wow, like I'm struggling, and then I'm struggling some more and struggling some more and more and more. And Christy, I'm saying this to you because you seem like a person who is willing to do their own work. You're facing your own trauma, you're doing your own work. So if he were a man who doesn't have this expectation of the next night or the next night or the next night, but just continues to give you empathy, eventually you're going to realize the pressure's off, that he is a safe person to connect to intimately, and it doesn't have to lead to sex, which, by the way, that's going to lead to sex. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's a hard, I mean, I understand why his frustration's there. I understand why the expectations are there. He really desires connection with you. It's a really hard thing to do for him to say, look, I'm going to let go of my expectations and I'm going to love her fiercely and love her so much, whether or not I get to orgasm or not. And that's going to lead to creating safety for you, which will lead to sex.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
There's always one partner that says it's not fair because the other partner has control. And I think there's a different way to reframe that. Like maybe one partner is feeling a little bit more safe and secure and present more of the time, and they're the ones who feel like they don't have the control, but that's because they're still pursuing it from this. There's still an element of this being a transactional thing instead of a mutual thing. And so, if my best interest is that really the only way I'm going to have really fulfilling sex anyway is have an engaged partner who wants to be connected, then I'm going to need to let go of that transactional idea of who's got more power and control in the relationship. That's not what this is about. This is about both of us being mutually in the place where there's safety and trust and presence. And some days that's going to be, maybe that's more often for him than for you. It's interesting though, because in your situation, he's also not pursuing it.
Yeah.
So what you end up getting, if he's not going to step into his work that way, is you'll just get someone who complains and is resentful instead of going to work and saying, I'm going to figure out the kind of man that loves and pursues my wife. That's who I want to be. And it'll be okay if sometimes she's not, present, engaged. And that will help with the safety and trust in the relationship.
A lot of times a man has a difficult time understanding this concept because masculinity is more about results. It's about, hey, like, let's have sex, let's experience, orgasm, let's do this, and that's how men are designed. And so they have a hard time understanding. For the feminine, it's more experience based, and it's more about the connection and the presence and being with each other. And so if a man can understand the feminine and be patient with the feminine and honor that feminine, then real intimacy happens. If a man comes consistently over and over again and like, look, we didn't have it yesterday, we didn't have it the day before, I need to get off. When's that going to happen? That's the last thing that's going to create that environment of intimacy and experience with each other. So it's an important thing to understand as a man, and not make it, like Tyler said, a transactional experience. So, Christy, are we just confusing you more?
No, I'm taking it all in because what you're saying just rings so true. I can't wait to have my husband come and hear all of this because I'm like, this is what he needs to hear.
Sounds like he's on the brink of the next step
I think
of
so.
recovery that he can just like, it's going to be scary. It's going to be vulnerable. And you are too, Christy. It's not just him. But
Mhm.
like when you guys step into some of this vulnerability together, you're going to experience things that you never have in your marriage. It's the love and the intimacy is going to be deeper and more real than it ever has been. So I'd say take those risks and practice this, what we're talking about. So
You're right in this spot. I was listening to a talk on shame a couple of months ago, and the speaker that was talking about the concept of shame was talking about, he tied it into our actually sexuality in a marriage and for a couple, and he kind of made the idea that part of what makes sex so amazing is because it's so vulnerable, and sex is it's a mess with a lot of powerful emotions, and God designed it that way because that's ultimately there's a true principle in play here, that vulnerability expressed in the safe places is what ultimately leads to the deepest connections. And so Brandon's right. Like, you guys are right there, Christy. You're doing the work you should be doing right now. You've basically followed what would be sort of the typical pattern of recovery, and both of you have done your work. There's been a her recovery and a his recovery, and you're going to be stepping into a new realm. And Brandon's right. You're going to experience some really amazing things. It's going to come with some messiness. It's going to come with some challenge. And if you're both up to that, which it sounds like you are, you guys are going to be in a really good place. You're on the right track.
yeah,
That's great to hear and exciting to hear.
where I'd focus right now is where you have been in terms of focusing on your own sexuality and being as healthy as you can as a sexual being. I'd hope that your husband, instead, like he can transition from sex addiction, I'm a sex addict, to like healthy sexuality for him. Accepting his sexuality, and as he's doing that, and he's being more confident and comfortable with his own sexuality, and as you're doing that, I would suggest some real good couples work in terms of like emotionally focused couples therapy, like really learning how to hold space for each other, practicing empathy on a whole new level. And as you do that and you work on your own selves, then together this should really start to naturally fix itself. And so I think, Christy, you can overcome this hurdle. You don't have to stay stuck in it forever. If you're having a lot of triggers, maybe there could be some EMDR to do, some trauma work to do around sexual trauma with your husband. And so maybe a little bit more of that could help as well.
Yeah, a lot of the EMDR that I've done has been about my teenage years. I haven't really done a whole lot focused on my husband. So yeah, I think there's some work to do there. I had a question too.
Okay.
So I've been doing a ton of my own work on my sexuality. How do I handle it if my husband won't do it?
It's a good question. Tyler?
Thanks. So that's so I always go back to the same kind of places where I find the most success. And I recommend this book all the time. I'd recommend The Anatomy of Peace, and I'd recommend looking at something called the Pyramid of Influence. And what that basically says is that when I'm to have some influence to change another person, there's some things that I need to have in place first. And that's where I'm going to put the things that I have control over before I try to correct the other person. And so obviously it would be in both of your interests if he were to lean into doing some of that work. And that'll be hard work for him. That's going to be scary. He's probably spent most of his life trying to shut things down. And so it's going to be, it's kind of like opening up a brand new firearm that you've never shot before and going, wow, like I better learn how to use the safety features on this thing. But it's a good thing for him to be doing. And so, what the pyramid says is you start at the bottom and your heart's already there. The bottom says get a heart at peace with them. Your heart's at peace with them already. And then it moves into saying develop relationships with people around him, develop a deeper relationship with him, communicate, teach, and then you might ask for change. And I would assess where you're at in that pyramid, and then spend your time at the lowest possible place, and then build upward. And in doing that, it's going to allow you to still have a voice. It's going to allow you to express yourself. It's going to allow you to show that you love him. It's going to allow you to feel like you've got some level of, your own choice to be acting, and not just be waiting to be acted upon. Mm-hmm. And then the word that I was thinking before you brought this question up, and then I was going to end with today, was the term ridiculous patience. And him too. If both of you guys are ridiculously patient with each other, that's going to allow some space for that work to do.
Okay. But I do want to say ridiculous patience can lead to some enabling, like where you're not living in your boundaries and your truths. And so my wife, Christy, decided to deal drugs. This isn't true, but she decided, she decided to deal drugs. And she was so excited about it. She was going to make a bunch of money. It was really exciting. It was an adventure. If you were me, she told me this yesterday. If you were me, what would you do?
You want to rethink this plan? Is this really in line with what you want to do with your life?
So that sounds kind of controlling, Christy, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I can totally empathize with her. I can hear her. I can I can validate why she wants to do that and where she's at. And I can also say that doesn't work for me. That like I'm not okay with that. And so that the same principle applies with your husband. Him not wanting to do his own work on his own sexuality, he first and foremost needs to know that you understand why, that you get him, that you understand how difficult it is for him, and for you to try to process that with him, talk to him about it, be loving. But then there's the other side of it. You understand why, and the way it is right now is not working in your marriage. And so you need to step into some, I'll call it conflict, but some honest, authentic communication with him as well about what works for you and what doesn't. So it's hard. That's some of the hardest stuff in a relationship, but it's also some of the best opportunities for real connection and trust building. So
yeah, absolutely. That's been our experience. And now I look at those hard conversations as opportunities for growth and connection. So I'm not scared to do it anymore.
Yeah. But also be willing to step up and say, okay, we've had many of these. I do understand you. I need to be honest with you about where I'm at. And like our intimacy and our sex life needs to improve. And I want to know that we're moving forward. So yeah. All right, Christy, we're out of time, but man, there was a lot of good content in this. And I just so appreciate your willingness to come be very vulnerable and honest. And I just want to say good job in your recovery work to this point as well. So in a lot of ways, just keep up the good work and take a few steps further.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me on. This is something that's really been bothering us lately, and all this feedback is just wonderful.
Well, thank you, Christy. Putting yourself on display this way is going to make an impact on several other people. Those of you listeners who have enjoyed this episode, make sure that you rate it, review it, share it with others. This was excellent content. Christy, thank you for bringing your heart and bringing your work. And I wish you and your husband the best of luck.
Thank you so much to you both.
All right. Have a good day. We'll see you.
Thank you.